Hello, and welcome to the Sarcastic Centrists. I'm Charles.
I'm Nick, and we're Sarcastic Centrists.
That is true. So, for our intro, I think we're talking about the debate.
Yes, the second Democratic primary debate, which was
for us was this week. I think we're releasing the podcasts a week after we record them, so for you it was 2 weeks ago.
Well, we'll see. I don't know. Depends on how we do it. So I watched both of them, and you watched the first one?
Yeah, I've only seen the first one so far.
Oh, well, you missed the good half.
Yes. I mostly just got to see Marianne Williamson get applause line after applause line.
Yeah. Also, she didn't sound crazy this time.
She sounded just crazy enough to win over the support of the American electorate.
Just crazy enough to work.
I've come to the conclusion that Marianne Williamson is the Democratic Trump, and so I hope that I'm wrong, but I think that she stands a pretty good chance of winning as things stand right now.
I don't know.
Like, I was like laughing at her craziness, and then I remembered how I laughed at craziness the same exact way when Donald Trump was first running, and I was like, oh, this isn't good.
Well, but that was like, no way that's gonna happen craziness. Not like, oh, she's funny, or he's funny kind of craziness.
It was kind of the same thing. The problem with America is that we're facing a dark psychic force that has been harnessed by this president. Like, that's crazy, but it's also funny, but it's funny because you think, oh, this has no chance of winning. And it's the same sort of thing as we need to build a wall.
And have Mexico pay for it.
You know, that technological solution that was highly effective until the invention of the cannon made it obsolete? We need to do that.
Oh, yeah, the Mexicans are going to bring out the Alamo cannons.
The Alamo cannons are sufficiently modern to make the wall useless.
Well, but it's gonna... it was gonna be a concrete wall, I think, and then they're like, Mr. President, I have some bad news for you. It's gonna be a metal wall now. And we're gonna pay for some of it. In fact, most of it.
Probably all of it. If it ever gets built.
I have the feeling it's gonna be built. Oh, I have the feeling that Trump is going to win the election.
I think there's a decent chance.
It depends on who the nominee is.
Yes.
Anyway,
if the nominee is too far left of center, I think Trump probably wins.
That's
and
all of them.
If the nominee doesn't inspire people.
Yeah. Well, speaking of which, our nominee of choice, Miss Gabbard, she delivered a nice blow to Kamala Harris, which you saw the clip of.
I did.
She's just like, well, you know, as a prosecutor, Kamala Harris said, you know, I have.
She said she was proud of her record.
Yeah, I'm proud of my record as a prosecutor, and she's like, well, as your record as a prosecutor, you put 1,500 people away for smoking marijuana, and then when asked about it on some interview, if you had ever smoked it yourself, you just laughed it off.
And she hid evidence that would have exonerated someone on death row.
On death row, yeah. Oh, that's much worse. I forgot about that. Ugh.
Yeah. I don't like Kamala Harris.
I don't either.
I was happy to see Tulsi Gabbard go after her.
Yes.
Especially if it wins points for Tulsi Gabbard, because so far she's my favorite.
She got covered up again by Twitter. After that debate night, she was the top searched person on Google.
Again?
Top candidate. On Twitter, there was something relating to her somehow that was trending. That shouldn't, like, could have only been possibly because of her. I forget what it was, but she wasn't trending at all despite all kinds of people talking about her. and then somebody pointed it out, and it's like, even like this, complete nobody who didn't say anything at all throughout the debates is trending above her, and like 40 minutes later, suspiciously, she's at number 3 after Biden and it was probably Kamala Harris. Social media is a mess.
Yeah. All right. So, on to our second section, which this week we will be discussing the Electoral College.
Yes, and we have different views on this.
We do. So, well, I think both of us support the Electoral College continuing to exist for now, but my reasoning is more of just from a pragmatic perspective. It's not worth the political capital that would be necessary to get rid of it at this point when we've got more important issues. But if you could just like flip a switch at will and get rid of it and it would cost nothing, then I think we shouldn't have it. I would prefer direct election of the president.
Why?
Because the point of the Electoral College is outdated now. It was originally created because when the country was founded, the 13 original states were 13 states. They weren't joined together in a single nation, and people identified with their state very strongly and didn't really identify with being American at all. It was an alliance, much more like the European Union than like the country we have today.
You're not helping yourself.
That's how it was back then, but things have changed. Over the course of the following centuries, we became a single nation. We were 13 nations that were joined together in an alliance with a single overarching government. And now we're one nation with a bunch of basically administrative districts. So as the nature of the country has changed, the Electoral College has come to no longer be relevant, and now politicians basically run on the popular vote with the assumption that whoever wins the popular vote will win the election, and the Electoral College is just a weird quirk that just distorts the results at the end.
Well, yeah, that's mostly right, but have you ever... I'm pretty sure I've shown you the map of Trump wins by district.
I've seen it. I don't think from you.
It's like pure red.
Mm-hmm.
And then in like massive cities, it's all blue.
Right.
So if we got rid of the Electoral College and it was just the popular vote, it would just be like whoever lives in big cities would control the elections, and the entire rest of the country would be deemed irrelevant.
That's only because a lot of people live in big cities.
Well, yeah. But they're also more liberal than
there's a lot of
areas.
There's a lot of different people that live in big cities, and there's a lot of people in different professions. Where in rural areas, people tend to be members of a single profession, or a closely related bundle of professions, something around agriculture. So they all tend to be working in this same or a similar industry. So there's a lot of different industries in cities. So then you wouldn't have this one industry, agriculture, that's weighted as strongly as most other industries combined.
How does that have to do with the Electoral College?
Well, that's the rural-urban divide.
Okay, yeah.
Which you were tying into the Electoral College, and which does have an effect on it now.
Well, but that's like the major effect. But people in cities are still more liberal just based on the results of the election. Well, you're saying somehow that has something to do with what they do for a living.
Well, then conservatives have to win over more people in cities. There's a lot of conservatives in suburban areas around cities. Now, in the last election, it was more stark because those people tended not to like Trump. but there's a lot of people who lean right in the suburban areas, which are part of the whole urban center.
Right.
So it isn't really that stark divide, except for when you have someone who only appeals to a specific demographic.
But my point is, if you just worked on the popular vote, you would have this case where whoever wins, like, maybe 5 cities in the country wins the whole country. And that's what the Electoral College was sort of designed to prevent. It was mostly designed to prevent idiot peasants from picking candidates that shouldn't have been running.
Well, I think it was mostly designed to give representation to the states. The original proposal was that Congress would select the president, but the founders thought that it might be a bad idea to have all of those basically political insiders, is what we would call them, people who were always associating with each other and part of the same clique in Congress, selecting the president.
That's too much of a check.
Right. So, but they liked the idea of Congress selecting it, so they decided to give each of the states the same number of electors as they had members of Congress, so that from a state's perspective, it would be as though Congress selected the president, but that the people in Congress wouldn't have that added power. So it was really about preserving the sovereignty of the states, which I think is largely an antiquated issue, really ever since the Civil War.
That's not true. Like, there's a lot of states. That's kind of another reason that I'm against it, is because it's sort of a states' rights thing. Like, every state should be represented equally, and if you took away the Electoral College, there would be like 4 states that matter, and then everybody else.
Yeah, but
like, nobody cares about Wyoming.
But people move between states.
So?
And people don't strongly identify with their state. If each state...
That's not true.
...is its own... Well,
you're only saying that because you're from a terrible state.
Fair point.
The people who do move through states, especially like if it's frequently or for a job or something, they don't. But the people who are like born and raised, they identify with their states strongly.
Especially if they have a special name like Hoosiers.
Is there a Chicago or Illinois name?
Illinoisan. It's
but that's
the
just,
generic one.
That's just like New Yorker.
Right, or Californian, or Floridian.
Yeah.
The only one that comes to mind for a special name like that is Indiana, and I have no clue why they call themselves Hoosiers.
I think everyone else calls them that, and then they're like, okay, we'll take it, and I don't know why I said that in a Canadian accent.
Well, don't you know that Indiana is the Canada of America?
No, that's like Maine or Michigan or something. No, it's Washington. Minnesota. Okay, Minnesota, that's good, yeah.
Minnesota.
Okay.
Yeah, but they're just Minnesotans.
Minnesoters.
Minnesotans? Anyway, I don't think people conceive of their state as a nation anymore. I think
not as a nation.
When people think of their national identity, they think of themselves as Americans first.
Well, yeah.
And perhaps they're Hoosiers second, but not even necessarily. Perhaps they have a religious identity or some other form of their identity. But when it comes to their national identity, they think of themselves as Americans.
Well, I think most people don't realize that most of their like laws and stuff are actually state laws and not national laws.
Yes,
I don't think
agree.
people realize like the difference that exists there.
Also, people pay a lot less attention generally to state politics than national politics.
Yeah.
It's really easy to focus on the big national politics, and anything else becomes... It just takes too much time and energy, because people have full-time jobs and families and probably some hobby other than just obsessing over politics.
Yeah.
And so there's only so much time and energy that they can spend staying up to date on politics, and everything other than national just becomes a distraction.
That's what I was gonna say earlier. I for the debates, it was 2 nights, so I skipped the first night, and then I was gonna watch it on YouTube at double speed, the second night, and then do the same thing the next day. But it wasn't up this time. They caught on.
Well, last time it was live streamed on YouTube as part of the distribution contract. This time it wasn't.
It was both times, but last time they had it archived the next day.
Right.
So I don't know what happened.
I
guess they realized a lot of people did that.
Well, it's a different media company. Last time I think it was MSNBC, and this time it was CNN.
Yeah, you're right.
I think that CNN didn't want to do that. I don't know why. I tried to find it on YouTube. I couldn't. I found 5 hours of pre-debate coverage.
Pre and post.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw that same video, and I'm like, oh, this is it. And then I skipped through, like, every 10 minutes of nothing.
Yeah, I was just like, okay, let's go in half an hour to get to the debate.
Yeah.
No.
CNN doesn't realize that the internet is a thing. Because, like, I searched it in Google after that, and then it's like, CNN, watch it here. And I'm like, oh, okay. I just have to watch it on their dumb site. And they didn't have it on there. They just had, like, clips.
But back to the Electoral College, because we've gotten sidetracked.
Yeah. Who cares?
Don't you think that it should be... that everyone's vote should be counted equally, and it should be one person, one vote? Like,
yes.
That core idea?
Yes, but I don't think that your vote should matter more because you live in a city than in the country.
Your vote doesn't matter more because you live in a city. There's just a lot of other people who live in a city.
It does if... okay.
Look, about 90% of the country lives in cities.
Right.
And each one of those people in that 90% gets one vote that's worth exactly the same amount as the vote of a rural person.
Yeah, but okay. So, first of all, they have to redo those because they're like 30 years out of date.
The percentages?
Yeah, the distribution of votes.
Yeah, this is an outdated statistic. So it's probably higher.
Higher in some places, lower in others, I'd say.
Yeah.
You can't get lower than 1, though, so... Good luck, Wyoming.
Right.
Do your best.
But right now, if you live in Wyoming, your vote counts for a lot more than someone who lives in most other states. And why should that be? Why should that person's vote count for more than the vote of someone living in Chicago or New York or LA?
Well, that's a different situation because, like, are you going to give them no votes?
No, I'd give them 1 vote.
Right, so there you go.
The same vote as everyone else, and then tally up all the votes at the end of the night.
I think it needs some kind of hybrid system. And I've been saying this since, like, Bush's second term.
I think he won the popular vote.
He won... No, Gore won the popular vote.
No, in his second term.
In his second term, yeah.
So it is possible for someone on the right to win the popular vote.
There's only been 3 cases where the popular vote has not been the same as the electoral vote. I don't know what the third one is.
I think it's 4. I thought 2000 they said there had only been 3 times. And then it happened again in 2016.
Whatever, it doesn't really matter. But I think
that's
there
what I was saying.
There could be some kind of hybrid system where... Okay, so right now, like, they're kind of... Democrats especially, like, they're fearing a fourth Trump term.
I would also fear a 4th Trump term.
A second Trump term. And they're doing everything in their power that they can to stop them, except from having good policies. And...
the one thing that would work.
Actually, they're kind of splitting into, like...
Yeah.
It's kind of happening, like... semi-organically that they're splitting into a second party. Like, what's her name, AOC, and the rest of the squad. Who came up with that name?
I think they did.
Okay. Why can't they come up with good ideas? Anyway, they are kind of like taking over mainstream Democrat policies, and like even the mainstream Democrats are like getting annoyed at them, and I think that they're going to, like, the far left ones are going to split off and form their own party, or the other way around.
Mm-hmm.
There's going to be a fracture, probably if Trump wins again, and the more moderate ones are going to have like more common sense policies.
I think it's the same thing on the Republican side. I think that there's some crazy and some of them quite dangerous people on both the far left and the far right. And then there's a lot of reasonable people in the center who you don't hear from.
I think that's more true for people than politicians, but yeah, that's also true. Do you know Dan Crenshaw, the guy with the eye patch?
No.
Oh, he's pretty cool. He gives talks about like facts and stuff.
Facts.
He's like a more moderate Ben Shapiro, who talks slowly, and talks at a normal rate, I should say.
Oh, you probably play him on 3x speed.
No, I can't play Ben Shapiro faster than 1.5. That's saying that out loud is, I just think I'm crazy now.
I usually watch on standard speed.
I don't have time for that. Anyway, I actually want a more than 2 times speed. That's how far I've sunk into YouTube. Okay, anyway. Yeah, so he's sort of like the Republican Tulsi Gabbard, where he's like anti-war because he was a veteran and lost his eye, and you know, like all of their policies are kind of the opposite, but they're still like real people. You know what I mean?
Yeah, although he seems like a 19th century cliche.
What?
He's anti-war because he's a veteran who lost his eye.
Well, he's not anti-war. He's pro get the troops out of Afghanistan after 20 years.
Yeah, that could be something that we do for a core segment. By the way, listeners, you can suggest discussion topics for our main discussion in the comments below, and if enough people suggest something, maybe we'll cover it.
Yes.
But that I think the war in Afghanistan is something that we could do a whole segment on.
I don't know enough history about that. I know Obama like tried to get troops out, but then ended up putting more back in, I think.
Yes, well, I think that's its own. I could probably go on for an hour about that.
He also got a Nobel Peace Prize for that. As
no, I think that was before.
Yeah, he was.
I think that was for saying he was going to do that.
Yeah, and then he ended up putting more troops in.
All right, so the Electoral College. I don't know that we've made progress past our initial.
Well, I said there should be some kind of hybrid system.
Okay, what sort of hybrid?
And I don't know how that would work, but some smart people could figure that out.
Well, we're smart people.
Well, yeah, but I mean, like some really smart people who know about politics and stuff. Because I don't.
I'm not sure how a hybrid system would be better than the popular vote. Because it seems, like you said, there's only been 3 or 4 times in U.S. history where the popular vote and the electoral vote haven't matched. I think the first time was with Andrew Jackson.
Who would vote for him?
A lot of people voted for him.
Stupid
he won the popular vote and lost the electoral vote, so then he ran again and won both.
Wait, he ran again?
Yeah, he lost his first time.
Didn't he... inherit his position from
You're thinking
Lincoln?
Teddy Roosevelt. No, you're thinking
Johnson. Okay.
Yeah, no, Andrew Jackson. Anyway, so most of the time, whoever wins the popular vote wins the electoral vote. And people generally go after the popular vote, assuming that if they win it, they'll win the electoral vote. And the way we talk about the elections, we're generally like the polls are usually popular vote polls. The way people talk and debate about the candidates, it's usually focused on the popular vote. And then the electoral vote is basically just a distortion at the end.
You know, they're always talking about swing states and stuff. And that's the only reason that they campaign in places that nobody really wants to go to.
All right. Well, by the same token, they don't campaign in states that are solidly one color or the other. They just take them for granted.
Yeah.
Because they don't care about improving their margins in those states. If they get 51%, that's good enough. So, like,
California's a mess. So's New York.
And so's Illinois.
Oh, God.
But the point is, they can.
How many of our
so
past
is Texas?
Like, how many of our past 5 governors have been sent to jail for some kind of white collar crime?
Past 5, I think only 3.
I think 4. But okay, I'll take your
No,
word for it.
you know what? It can only be 2 if you're doing past 5, because we've got a new governor now, and so Quinn
but
wasn't.
it's only a matter of time for him.
Yeah, but you can't count it until he's convicted. You have to presume
Convicted
innocent.
or arrested?
Convicted, I think.
Oh. Did any of them get off?
You have to give him the presumption of innocence.
But did any of them get...
No. The ones who were sent to prison for corruption, they served their time, or are still in prison asking for a presidential pardon.
Man, could you imagine if that happened?
A presidential pardon for a corrupt governor?
Yeah.
It could just happen. I think Trump was considering it.
Why? Because Trump?
Yeah, because sometimes he likes to pardon people. I don't know. Maybe the guy wrote him a really nice letter saying how great he was.
Oh my God.
So do you have a hybrid system to propose?
No. But speaking of hybrid systems, I am a fan of hybrid, or not hybrid, but like alternative voting systems.
Yes.
Like I don't like
ranked voting?
I don't know what that is. But
okay.
It's probably something along the lines of what I'm talking about. Like, I don't want to just vote for... I don't want to be stuck voting for Hillary Clinton. Right?
Right, that's why you vote for Gary Johnson. I did.
I did too. And I kind of didn't want to. Mostly because the media portrayed him so... Like, they showed the same 3 clips of him being a complete idiot for like hours and hours, and they had like only 15 seconds of it. No, but I mean, like, okay, like let's take the current candidates. Just like write your top 3, or approve or don't approve. That's a good one too. Like, I don't know half the candidates right now. I don't approve of them because who are they? You know, I mean, I guess I could look them up, but I shouldn't be too hard on them because, like, I know they've been messing with Yang and cutting his mic and stuff, but
yeah, they've probably been sabotaging the ones that we don't care about.
The ones that we don't care about.
Well, the ones that you and I don't care about have probably also been sabotaged.
Right.
Because we know that the ones that we do care about have been sabotaged, and there's no reason to think that the other ones haven't.
Yeah. But, like, when they talk, it's just, like, they say the most generic things, and I just don't care. But when the others, the ones that I do care about, talk, it's like, oh, I'm interested in this. And then it becomes the top-ranked Google search out of all the candidates, and it's just like, there's a bit of a difference. I can tell.
Yeah.
I'd like write your candidates in order of who you would like to win. Like top 3 or confidence or no confidence.
There's this system called ranked choice voting.
Yeah.
So you've got a bunch of candidates.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say you've got, 24 Democratic candidates right now?
I don't know.
So let's say you've got a dozen candidates in a general election, right?
Sure.
And what you would do is you would rank each candidate in your order of preference.
Uh-huh.
So then they take all of the number 1 votes, and they take the person who got the least number 1 votes, and they take them out of the race, and then all of those people, whoever they voted put as their second choice, their votes go to that person now. And then they recalculate the totals. And then whoever's in last...
Whoever just gets the second amount goes to...
No, so everyone votes, right? And they take everyone's first choice with everyone getting one vote.
Number 1 wins, and then the second...
No, the last place person.
Oh, okay.
The last place...
You had me totally confused.
Yeah, the last place person they take out.
Okay.
And then all the people who voted for the last place person as their top pick, they apply their votes towards that person's second pick from when they ranked out their choices.
Mm-hmm.
And then they repeat the process until you're down to just one person.
Okay, I thought you meant like they take him out and then he's like in the leaderboard or something like that.
No. So like in 2016, like in any election, really, you don't, because the argument against third-party candidates is always you're wasting a vote.
Right.
And if everyone who thought that way and didn't vote for them because of that just ignored that and voted for them anyway, like if everyone who felt that way did it, then they'd be winning all the time. But people don't vote for them because there's something of a prisoner's dilemma. No one else will do it.
Right.
So I'm not going to be the only one doing it. But with the ranked choice voting, you could put your third-party candidate that you like as your top rank, and if no one else votes for them, then your second pick gets applied.
I'm not doing that. I'm not a snitch.
What?
Prisoner's dilemma.
Oh. Okay.
You can't trick me.
Well, let's have it this way. Neither one will speak. Neither one of us will speak.
Okay, we're both not voting if that ever happens. Right?
Well, I'm going to vote. I'm going to vote for third party.
We already pinky promised.
No, we didn't.
That's true. I lied.
I'm going to vote for whichever candidate I think is best.
Okay, I won't snitch if you don't snitch.
Okay. Fortunately, I trust you in this prisoner's dilemma.
Okay, good. He didn't see me wink. Yeah, that seems like a good system. Yeah.
There's actually a YouTuber, I believe his name is CP Gray, who has a series of videos where he goes through all the various types of voting systems that have been proposed.
I don't think I know him. Oh, everyone of all time.
Yeah.
I'd like to know the African tribal votes.
Everywhere in modern
Whoever survives is leader.
Probably just modern liberal democracies. Though his example always does use the animal kingdom.
Wait, is this the guy who makes like the pixel art and is... No, that's animal versus animal. Or human versus... No, it's what are the stats of an animal? You don't know what I'm talking about. Okay, never mind.
However, these hybrid systems would not work with the Electoral College. Or they're not even hybrid systems. These alternate voting systems would not work with the Electoral College.
I would be fine with that.
They're actually...
As long as it's not just like a direct vote for, with a two-party system, I'd be fine with that.
The
I don't know how I
possibility,
can reconcile that, but I do.
the possibility of these alternate voting systems is, I think, a point against the Electoral College.
You know what? I can't explain it, but I'm more fine with that than I am with the other. You know what it is? It's because there's a wider selection, right?
Yeah.
It's either vote for Trump or vote for Hillary, and there's a much less, a much clearer, like, fine point of policy there, where you either have to go all in on one or the other, and that is gonna just make a lot of people vote for a person that they normally wouldn't vote for. But if you have a huge spectrum of candidates, which admittedly like would be kind of annoying and you'd have to do some research for, then it kind of balances out, because then you could put your number one vote as someone who's more moderate or more far right or more way far left, or just dead center or whatever. You could
Or,
vote,
or someone with an interesting mix of hybrid ideas.
yeah, you could vote for the libertarian, or you could vote for the authoritarian on one side or the other. It's not as limited, is my point.
Right.
I think if you had that
Vote for the anti-democracy party.
Right. Well,
Yeah.
that's what...
There's no irony there. The anti-democracy party is going to win your vote.
That system, or that vote... God. That party exists already. It's just hasn't fractured off from the Democrats yet.
Or from the Republicans. I'm not a big fan of the extremes of either party.
You know what? I haven't heard of any like AOC equivalents of the Republican Party. Do you know of any?
In Congress, no.
Any kind of
I think
elected
that's
position.
I think that's a publicity thing. I think that they exist, but just don't. Although they would get coverage, wouldn't they?
Hiding.
Well,
They would get way more coverage.
yeah, because it would be like, oh, look at these awful people. This is why we need to oppose this and vote for the crazy people on this side, right? Like what they did.
And vote for this awesome person who we love and is gonna save the world.
Yeah, so maybe they don't
Because
exist.
it's going to die in 12 years.
But you know what does exist on the far
years.
right is...
A lot of voters.
Well, sure.
Well, not a lot, but enough.
I was thinking the Huckabee types, the crazy theocrats.
Yeah, but I don't think it's nearly as bad as it was maybe 10 years ago.
Yeah, I think they've calmed...
That's what a lot of people say, like, who are like, Republicans are evil.
I think they've calmed down because they're trying to appeal to centrists.
Yeah, kind of pander.
Right. I think they're still there and they still have their crazy theocrat beliefs.
They're just hiding.
Right, because now is not their moment.
No.
Santorum was another one.
Who?
Rick Santorum.
Another what?
Crazy theocrat on the right.
Really?
Yeah. I think so, unless
Wait,
I'm confusing him with someone else.
Unless I'm confusing him with someone else. Is he the guy that used to be a pro wrestler?
I don't think so.
Who is that?
Oh. I'm not sure, but I think he's decent.
Yeah, I've heard he's really, like, polite and nice, too. And his wrestling persona was, like, super evil, maybe? I don't know. I didn't know anything about
right.
evil. I mean, I don't know anything about wrestling. Don't know much about evil either, I guess, but...
You didn't get a doctorate in evil?
No formal education in evil. No formal education in good, to be perfectly forthcoming, but
I don't believe you. I think you did have a formal education in evil.
I mean, I can't prove you wrong. I could be lying, but
I saw you go to the evil school. I walked with you there.
well, someone doesn't like public education.
Oh, I wasn't referring to public education.
Oh, okay.
Although actually I do have issues with our public education system. But that's...
Well, I mean,
I just don't want to...
and who doesn't?
Right. I just don't want to inadvertently endorse it when I say that I wasn't calling it the embodiment of evil.
Okay.
All right. Well, I think that's about a wrap.
All right. We'll see you next time. Ask any questions or any topics that you want us to talk about in the comments, and we'll see you next time.
I'm Charles.
I'm Nick.
Thank you for listening.
Bye.